The origins of the Black African race. The history of Black Africans is a complex and fascinating one that spans thousands of years and encompasses a wide range of cultures, languages, and civilizations. From ancient kingdoms and empires to the slave trade and colonialism, the story of Black Africans is one of resilience, strength, and determination in the face of adversity. Prehistory and ancient times. The history of Black Africans begins with the origins of humanity in Africa. According to scientific research, the first humans evolved in Africa around 200,000 years ago. As early humans migrated across the continent, they developed a variety of cultures and languages, and some of the earliest civilizations in the world emerged in Africa. One of the earliest known civilizations in Africa was the Kingdom of Kush, which existed in present-day Sudan from around 2500 BC to 350 AD. The Kushites built impressive cities and monuments, including the pyramids at Meroe, and they were known for their ironworking skills and military might. Another important ancient civilization in Africa was the Kingdom of Aksum, which existed in present-day Ethiopia and Eritrea from around 100 AD to 940 AD. The Aksumites were known for their advanced agriculture, trade, and architecture, and they were one of the first civilizations to adopt Christianity as their official religion. Medieval and early modern times. During the medieval period, several powerful empires emerged in Africa, including the Ghana Empire, the Mali Empire, and the Songhai Empire. These empires were known for their wealth, sophisticated societies, and impressive architecture, including the Great Mosque of Djenné and the University of Timbuktu. One of the most famous African rulers of the medieval period was Mansa Musa, the king of the Mali Empire from 1312 to 1337. Mansa Musa was one of the richest people in the world, and his wealth was legendary. He made a pilgrimage to Mecca in 1324, bringing with him a large entourage and a vast amount of gold, which he gave away to the poor and the needy along the way. The transatlantic slave trade had a profound impact on the history of Black Africans. Beginning in the 16th century, European powers such as Portugal, Spain, Britain, and France began capturing and enslaving Africans and transporting them across the Atlantic to work on plantations in the Americas. It is estimated that between 10 and 12 million Africans were forcibly taken from their homes and brought to the New World as slaves. The slave trade had a devastating impact on Africa, as it led to the depopulation of many areas, the disruption of traditional societies, and the loss of millions of lives. However, it also led to the emergence of new cultural forms, as enslaved Africans blended their African heritage with the cultural practices of their captors. Colonialism and independence. The 19th and early 20th centuries saw the rise of colonialism in Africa, as European powers sought to expand their empires and control the continent's resources. This period saw the partition of Africa into colonies and spheres of influence, as well as the exploitation of Africa's people and resources. Many African countries gained independence from their European colonizers in the mid-20th century. However, this period was marked by political instability, civil wars, and economic struggles, as newly independent countries struggled to build stable governments and economies. Post-independence. In the decades since independence, Black Africans have made significant progress in building stable and prosperous societies. Many African countries have experienced economic growth and social development, and the continent is home to some of the world's fastest-growing economies. However, challenges remain, including poverty, corruption, political instability, and the ongoing legacy of colonialism and the slave trade. Despite these challenges, Black Africans continue to pursue. The origins of the Black African race are complex and multifaceted, involving multiple factors such as genetics, geography, climate, and migration patterns. The history of the Black African race is one that spans thousands of years, and understanding its origins requires an interdisciplinary approach that draws on a wide range of fields, including genetics, anthropology, archaeology, linguistics, and history. In this essay, I will explore the origins of the Black African race, beginning with the earliest known human migrations out of Africa and continuing through to the present day. I will examine the genetic and physical characteristics that define the Black African race, as well as the cultural and linguistic traditions that have evolved within this diverse and dynamic population. Origins of the human species. To understand the origins of the Black African race, it is first necessary to explore the origins of the human species as a whole. The human species, Homo sapiens, emerged in Africa approximately 300,000 years ago, and over the course of tens of thousands of years, early humans migrated out of Africa and spread across the globe. The first wave of human migration out of Africa occurred approximately 60,000 years ago, when a group of early humans left the continent and began to populate the rest of the world. This group, known as the Out of Africa or African population, was relatively small, consisting of just a few thousand individuals. Over time, this population grew and diversified, giving rise to a wide range of different ethnic groups and races. Genetic and physical characteristics of the Black African race. The Black African race is characterized by a number of distinctive genetic and physical features. These features include dark skin, tightly coiled hair, and a range of facial and cranial features that are distinct from those found in other racial groups. One of the most striking physical features of the Black African race is its dark skin. This skin color is the result of high levels of melanin, a pigment that helps to protect the skin from the harmful effects of the sun. Dark skin is an adaptation to the high levels of ultraviolet radiation found in equatorial regions, where the Black African race originated. Another distinctive feature of the Black African race is its tightly coiled hair. This hair texture is the result of adaptations that help to protect the scalp from the sun, as well as provide insulation and protection against insects and other environmental factors. The tightly coiled nature of Black African hair is also thought to be an adaptation that helps to dissipate heat and regulate body temperature. In addition to these physical features, the Black African race is also characterized by a range of facial and cranial features that are distinct from those found in other racial groups. These features include a broad, flat nose, prominent cheekbones, and a rounded skull shape. Cultural and linguistic traditions of the Black African race. The cultural and linguistic traditions of the Black African race are just as diverse and complex as its genetic and physical characteristics. These traditions have evolved over thousands of years and reflect the rich history and cultural heritage of this vibrant population. One of the most important cultural traditions of the Black African race is its music. African music has been shaped by a wide range of cultural and historical influences, and it encompasses a wide range of styles, from traditional tribal music to modern pop and hip-hop. African music is known for its complex rhythms, rich harmonies, and vibrant melodies, and it has had a profound influence on the music of other cultures around the world. Another important cultural tradition of the Black African race is its religious beliefs. African religions are incredibly diverse and vary widely from region to region. Many African religions are characterized by a strong connection to the natural world and an emphasis on ancestor worship and community values. In addition to its music and religious traditions, the Black African The migrations of the Black African race from Egypt to West Africa is a long and complex history that spans thousands of years. It is a story of a people who have traversed continents, crossed vast deserts, and navigated treacherous waters in search of a better life. The journey of these people is marked by triumphs, tragedies, and everything in between. In this essay, we will explore the history of the migrations of the Black African race from Egypt to West Africa, starting from the ancient times to the modern era. Part 1: Ancient Migrations. The story of the migrations of the Black African race from Egypt to West Africa begins in ancient times. It is believed that the first Black Africans migrated from Egypt to West Africa around 5,000 years ago. These early migrants were known as the Nubians, and they settled in what is now Sudan. The Nubians were skilled in agriculture, and they introduced new farming techniques to the region. They also developed a trading system that brought them into contact with other African tribes and civilizations, such as the Egyptians and the Assyrians. Over time, the Nubians established powerful kingdoms, such as the Kingdom of Kush, which ruled over a vast territory in what is now Sudan and Egypt. The Kingdom of Kush was known for its wealth, its advanced military, and its sophisticated architecture. It was a major player in the politics of the ancient world, and it traded with distant lands such as China, India, and Rome. However, the Kingdom of Kush eventually declined, and its people migrated southward, settling in what is now Ethiopia and Eritrea. From there, they continued to migrate westward, settling in the region that is now known as West Africa. Part 2: Medieval Migrations. The medieval period saw a significant increase in the migrations of the Black African race from Egypt to West Africa. This was due to a number of factors, such as the rise of the trans-Saharan trade routes, the spread of Islam, and the collapse of various African empires. The trans-Saharan trade routes were a network of trade routes that connected West Africa with the Mediterranean world. These routes were used to transport goods such as gold, salt, ivory, and slaves. The trade routes were controlled by powerful African empires, such as the Empire of Ghana, the Empire of Mali, and the Songhai Empire. These empires were able to amass great wealth and power by controlling the trade routes. They also developed sophisticated systems of government, such as the use of a centralized bureaucracy and a system of taxation. These systems helped to create stable and prosperous societies that attracted migrants from all over Africa. The spread of Islam also played a significant role in the migrations of the Black African race from Egypt to West Africa. Islam was introduced to West Africa by Arab traders who used the trans-Saharan trade routes. Over time, many West Africans converted to Islam, which helped to create a shared identity and culture across the region. The collapse of various African empires also led to the migrations of the Black African race from Egypt to West Africa. For example, when the Empire of Ghana collapsed in the 12th century, many of its people migrated to other parts of West Africa, such as Mali and Songhai. Part 3: Modern Migrations. The modern era has seen a continuation of the migrations of the Black African race from Egypt to West Africa. This has been driven by factors such as political instability, economic hardship, and conflict. One of the most significant modern migrations was the transatlantic slave trade, which saw millions of Africans forcibly taken from their homelands and transported to the Americas. Many of these slaves were from West Africa, and their descendants have had a significant impact on the culture and society of the Americas. Another modern, Mesopotamia, which is the region between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, is located in what is now Iraq, Syria, and Turkey, and has never been inhabited primarily by Black Africans. However, the African continent has a rich history of migration, both within the continent and to other parts of the world. And I can provide information about some of the major migrations of African people throughout history. Prehistoric migrations of African peoples. The origins of human beings can be traced back to Africa, and from there, early humans migrated to other parts of the world. The earliest migrations out of Africa are believed to have occurred around 70,000 years ago, when a small group of humans left the continent and settled in what is now the Middle East. Over time, these early humans migrated further and further afield, eventually settling all over the world. The African diaspora. In modern times, the term African diaspora is used to refer to the movement of people of African descent away from their ancestral homelands. The African diaspora has its roots in the transatlantic slave trade, which began in the 16th century and continued until the mid-19th century. During this time, millions of Africans were forcibly taken from their homes and transported across the Atlantic to work as slaves in the Americas. The majority of these enslaved Africans came from West and Central Africa, including present-day countries such as Senegal, Gambia, Ghana, Nigeria, Angola, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. However, Africans from other regions, such as East Africa and Madagascar, were also taken as slaves. The transatlantic slave trade had a devastating impact on African societies and cultures, as well as on the millions of individuals who were enslaved. Despite this, African people managed to maintain their cultural traditions and practices, and to develop new forms of expression in the face of oppression. Internal migrations within Africa. In addition to the transatlantic slave trade, there have been many other migrations of African people throughout history. Some of the earliest migrations occurred within Africa itself, as people moved from one region to another in search of better living conditions, resources, or safety. One example of such internal migration is the Bantu migration, which began around 3,000 years ago and lasted for several centuries. The Bantu people originated in what is now Cameroon and Nigeria and gradually spread south and east, eventually settling in much of southern, central, and eastern Africa. The Bantu migration had a significant impact on the region's language, culture, and social structures. Other internal migrations in Africa have been driven by conflict, political instability, and economic pressures. For example, the ongoing conflict in the Democratic Republic of Congo has led to the displacement of millions of people within the country, as well as to migration to neighboring countries such as Uganda and Rwanda. Migration of Africans to the Americas and Europe. In addition to the transatlantic slave trade, there have been other migrations of African people to the Americas and Europe throughout history. In the early 20th century, for example, many Africans migrated to Europe in search of work and better living conditions. This migration was driven in part by the demand for labor in European countries following World War I. In the United States, African Americans have also experienced significant internal migration, particularly during the 20th century. The Great Migration, which occurred between 1910 and 1970, saw millions of African Americans leave the rural South and move to cities in the North and West in search of better economic opportunities and to escape racial discrimination. Conclusion. While there is no evidence to suggest that Black Africans migrated from Mesopotamia, the migration of the Black African race from Israel to West Africa is a topic that has been shrouded in mystery and controversy for many years. The origin of the Black African race is a subject that is still debated by historians, anthropologists, and scientists. Some scholars believe that the Black African race originated in East Africa, while others argue that the Black African race may have originated in Israel. This article will focus on the migration of the Black African race from Israel to West Africa. We will explore the historical evidence, the cultural and linguistic similarities between West African and Israelite cultures, and the impact that the migration had on the West African region. Historical evidence. The historical evidence of the migration of the Black African race from Israel to West Africa is sparse and inconclusive. However, there are some accounts that suggest that the migration may have taken place during the time of the Babylonian exile. According to the Bible, the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar II conquered the kingdom of Judah in 597 BC and exiled the Jewish people to Babylon. The Babylonian exile lasted for 70 years, and it is during this time that the Jewish people may have migrated to West Africa. One of the most significant pieces of evidence that support this theory is the existence of a Jewish community in Ghana known as the Sefwi-Wiaso. The Sefwi-Wiaso people claim that they are descendants of Jewish migrants who arrived in West Africa during the Babylonian exile. Cultural and linguistic similarities. Another piece of evidence that supports the theory of the migration of the Black African race from Israel to West Africa is the cultural and linguistic similarities between West African and Israelite cultures. For example, the Ashanti people of Ghana have a tradition of circumcision that is similar to the Jewish tradition of circumcision. The Ashanti people also have a tradition of animal sacrifice, which is similar to the Jewish tradition of animal sacrifice. In addition, many West African languages have Hebrew and Aramaic loanwords. For example, the Bambara language of Mali has the word dagan, which means grain, and is similar to the Hebrew word dagan. The Wolof language of Senegal has the word sama, which means here, and is similar to the Hebrew word shema. Impact on West Africa. The migration of the Black African race from Israel to West Africa had a significant impact on the region. The Jewish migrants brought with them their culture, religion, and skills. One of the most significant impacts of the migration was the spread of Judaism in West Africa. The Sefwi Wiaso community in Ghana is one of the few Jewish communities in West Africa, and they have preserved their Jewish traditions and customs for centuries. In addition, the Jewish migrants brought with them their skills in agriculture, metalworking, and trade. These skills were passed down to the local West African populations, and they helped to improve the economic and social development of the region. Conclusion: the migration of the Black African race from Israel to West Africa is a topic that is still debated by scholars today. The historical evidence is inconclusive, but the cultural and linguistic similarities between West African and Israelite cultures suggest that there may have been a migration during the Babylonian exile. The impact of the migration on West Africa was significant. The Jewish migrants brought with them their culture, religion, and skills, which helped to improve the economic and social development of the region. The spread of Judaism in West Africa is one of the most significant impacts of the migration, and it is a testament to the enduring legacy of the Jewish migrants who settled in the region. The history of Black Africans is a complex and multifaceted one that has been largely lost over time. Despite their significant contributions to the world, Black Africans have often been marginalized and excluded from the historical narrative. In this article, we will attempt to piece together some of the lost history of the Black African race, exploring their ancient civilizations, cultural achievements, and historical struggles. Chapter 1: Ancient African Civilizations. Long before the rise of European empires, Africa was home to a number of advanced civilizations. One of the most famous of these was the Kingdom of Kush, which flourished in what is now modern-day Sudan from around 1700 BC to 350 AD. The Kushites were renowned for their ironworking, their use of pyramids, and their written language, which was one of the earliest forms of writing in Africa. Another ancient African civilization was the Kingdom of Aksum, which was located in what is now Ethiopia and Eritrea. Aksum was a major trading power, and its merchants traveled as far as India and the Mediterranean. Aksum's rulers were known for their sophisticated coinage and their construction of monumental stelae. In West Africa, the Kingdom of Ghana was one of the first sub-Saharan African civilizations to emerge. Ghana was a major center of trade, with merchants trading gold, ivory, and salt across the Sahara Desert. Ghana's kings were wealthy and powerful, and they built impressive palaces and fortifications. Chapter 2: The Transatlantic Slave Trade. One of the most significant events in African history was the transatlantic slave trade, which lasted from the 16th to the 19th century. Millions of Africans were forcibly taken from their homes and transported across the Atlantic to work as slaves in the Americas. The slave trade had a devastating impact on African societies, causing untold suffering and loss of life. Despite the horrors of the slave trade, Black Africans were not passive victims. Many resisted their enslavement through rebellions, escapes, and sabotage. One of the most famous slave revolts was the Haitian Revolution, which began in 1791 and resulted in the establishment of the first Black republic in the world. Chapter 3: Colonialism and Resistance. In the late 19th century, European powers began to colonize Africa, carving up the continent into colonies and exploiting its resources. Colonialism had a profound impact on African societies, causing widespread social, economic, and political upheaval. Many Africans resisted colonial rule through armed resistance, political organizing, and cultural movements. One of the most famous African resistance movements was the Mau Mau Rebellion, which took place in Kenya in the 1950s. The Mau Mau were a group of Kikuyu rebels who fought against British colonial rule. The rebellion was brutal, with both sides engaging in atrocities, but it ultimately led to Kenya's independence in 1963. Chapter 4: The Civil Rights Movement. In the 20th century, Black Africans around the world began to demand equal rights and an end to racism. In the United States, the civil rights movement was led by figures such as Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks, who fought against segregation and discrimination. The movement led to the passage of landmark legislation, such as the Civil Rights Act of 1964. In South Africa, apartheid was a system of institutionalized racism and segregation that lasted from 1948 to 1994. The anti-apartheid movement was led by figures such as Nelson Mandela, who spent 27 years in prison for his activism. The movement ultimately led to the end of apartheid and the establishment of a democratic government in South Africa. Chapter 5: Contemporary Issues. Today, Black Africans continue to face a range of challenges. The African continent is rich in diverse cultures, traditions, and beliefs. Among the many beliefs that Africans hold dear are their religious beliefs. Religion has been an integral part of African culture, with each community having its gods and deities. In this article, we will explore the gods of Black African race, their significance and the role they play in African religion. African religion. African religion is a collection of beliefs, rituals, and practices that are unique to the continent. It is a religion that has evolved over the centuries, influenced by different cultures and traditions. In African religion, the supreme being is usually referred to as God, who is believed to be the creator of the universe. However, African religion also recognizes the existence of other gods and deities that play important roles in the lives of people. The gods of Black African race. Anansi. Anansi is a god in African religion, particularly among the Akan people of Ghana. He is known as the trickster god and is often depicted as a spider. Anansi is a popular figure in African folklore and is known for his cunning and mischievous behavior. He is revered for his intelligence and is often called upon to solve difficult problems. Ogun. Ogun is a god in African religion, particularly among the Yoruba people of Nigeria. He is known as the god of iron, war, and hunting. Ogun is a powerful god, and his worship is characterized by the use of iron tools and weapons. He is often called upon to protect people from harm and to help them overcome their enemies. Asen. Asen is a goddess in African religion, particularly among the Yoruba people of Nigeria. She is known as the goddess of fertility, love, and prosperity. Asen is often depicted as a beautiful woman wearing a white dress and carrying a pot of water. Her worship is characterized by the use of water and is often associated with purification and healing. Shango is a god in African religion, particularly among the Yoruba people of Nigeria. He is known as the god of thunder and lightning and is often depicted as a powerful warrior. Shango is a popular god, and his worship is characterized by the use of drums and dancing. He is often called upon to bring rain and to protect people from lightning strikes. Mamiwata. Mamiwata is a goddess in African religion, particularly among the people of West Africa. She is known as the goddess of the sea and is often depicted as a beautiful woman with a fish tail. Mamiwata is revered for her beauty and power, and her worship is characterized by the use of water and music. She is often called upon to bless people with prosperity and good fortune. Oya. Oya is a goddess in African religion, particularly among the Yoruba people of Nigeria. She is known as the goddess of the wind, storms, and the cemetery. Oya is a powerful goddess, and her worship is characterized by the use of fire and wind instruments. She is often called upon to protect people from harm and to help them overcome their enemies. As she was a god in African religion, particularly among the Yoruba people of Nigeria. He is known as the trickster god and is often depicted as a man with a mischievous grin. Eshu is revered for his intelligence and is often called upon to solve difficult problems. His worship is characterized by the use of palm nuts and cowries. Oshun. Oshun is a goddess in African religion, particularly among the Yoruba people of Nigeria. She is known as the goddess of love, beauty, and fertility. The gods of the Black African race are as diverse as the people themselves. The Black African continent is made up of numerous tribes and ethnic groups, each with their own set of gods and goddesses that they worship. These gods and goddesses have played an important role in the lives of Black Africans for thousands of years, shaping their cultures, beliefs, and practices. In this essay, we will explore some of the most well-known gods and goddesses of the Black African race. From Anansi, the spider god of the Ashanti people, to Oshun, the goddess of love and fertility of the Yoruba people, we will delve into the rich mythology of the Black African continent and uncover the stories behind some of its most revered deities. Anansi, the spider god. Anansi is one of the most well-known gods of the Ashanti people of Ghana. He is often depicted as a spider, and his stories are some of the most popular folktales in West Africa. Anansi is a trickster god, known for his cunning and his ability to outsmart his enemies. According to Ashanti mythology, Anansi was given the gift of storytelling by the sky god, Nyame. Anansi used his gift to spread knowledge and wisdom throughout the land, teaching the people of Ghana about the world around them. However, he was also known to be mischievous and would often play pranks on the other gods and goddesses. In some stories, Anansi is credited with creating the sun, moon, and stars. In others, he is responsible for bringing fire to the people of Ghana. Despite his mischievous nature, Anansi is revered by the Ashanti people as a symbol of wisdom and knowledge. Oshun, the goddess of love and fertility. Oshun is the goddess of love and fertility in Yoruba mythology. She is associated with rivers, streams, and other bodies of water, and is often depicted wearing a yellow dress and holding a fan. Oshun is a powerful goddess, known for her beauty, intelligence, and charm. According to Yoruba mythology, Oshun was sent to earth by the creator god, Olodumare, to help bring balance and harmony to the world. She is often associated with the concept of sweetness, and is said to bring joy and happiness to those who worship her. Oshun is also known for her healing powers. She is often called upon to help those who are sick or in need of spiritual guidance. In Yoruba culture, it is common to make offerings to Oshun in exchange for her blessings. Shango, the god of thunder. Shango is the god of thunder and lightning in Yoruba mythology. He is often depicted carrying a double-headed axe and wearing a red and white outfit. Shango is a powerful god, known for his strength, courage, and leadership. According to Yoruba mythology, Shango was once a mortal king who was deified after his death. He is often associated with the concept of justice, and is said to be able to see through lies and deceit. Shango is also known for his fiery temper. He is said to have the ability to control the weather, and is often called upon to bring rain to the crops. In Yoruba culture, it is common to make offerings to Shango in exchange for his protection and blessings. Legba, the god of the crossroads. Legba is the god of the crossroads in Haitian Vodou. He is often depicted as an old man with a cane, and is associated with the concept of communication and travel. According to Haitian Vodou mythology, Legba is the gatekeeper between. Black African mythology is a vast and complex subject that encompasses a wide range of deities, spirits, and beliefs. While there are many variations of these myths across the continent, some themes and stories remain consistent throughout. In this essay, we will explore the gods of Black African race, their origins, and their significance. Origins of African mythology. African mythology has its roots in the pre-colonial era, long before the arrival of Europeans. Much of African mythology is oral, passed down through generations in the form of stories and songs. These stories often contain allegories, moral lessons, and explanations for natural phenomena. It is important to note that there is no single African mythology. The continent is home to hundreds of distinct cultures, each with its own mythology. However, there are some common themes that run throughout many African mythologies. The most notable of these is the belief in a supreme being or creator. This being is often associated with the sky and is believed to have created the universe and all living things. However, many African mythologies also include a pantheon of gods and goddesses who have specific domains and powers. The gods of Black African race. As mentioned above, there is no single African mythology and therefore, no single pantheon of gods. However, there are some gods and goddesses who are present in multiple African mythologies, albeit with different names and attributes. In this section, we will explore some of the most prominent gods of Black African race. Anansi. Anansi is a trickster god who originates from West Africa, specifically Ghana. He is depicted as a spider and is known for his cunning and ability to outsmart his opponents. Anansi is also associated with storytelling, and many African myths and fables feature him as a central character. Anansi is often portrayed as a flawed hero, as his tricks sometimes lead to unintended consequences. However, he is still revered by many African cultures as a symbol of ingenuity and resourcefulness. Amma is a sky god from the Dogon people of Mali. He is believed to have created the universe and all living things. According to Dogon mythology, Amma created the world by breaking off a piece of the cosmic egg and spinning it into existence. He then created the first living beings, including humans. Amma is often depicted as a benevolent and wise god, and he is associated with rain and fertility. He is also believed to have taught the first humans how to cultivate crops and raise livestock. Oya. Oya is a goddess from the Yoruba people of Nigeria. She is associated with winds, lightning, and storms. Oya is often depicted as a fierce warrior, and she is believed to be able to call forth powerful storms to defeat her enemies. In addition to her role as a warrior, Oya is also associated with death and the afterlife. She is believed to guide the souls of the departed to the spirit world and is often depicted carrying a sword and a basket of fruit, which represent the duality of life and death. Shango. Shango is a thunder god from the Yoruba people of Nigeria. He is associated with lightning, thunder, and fire. Shango is often depicted as a muscular man with a large afro and a double-headed axe. Shango is a popular god in many African cultures, and he is often worshipped as a protector and provider. He is associated with virility and is believed to help couples conceive children. Ogun. Ogun is a god from the Yoruba people of Nigeria. He is associated with metalworking, hunting, and war. Ogun is often depicted as a strong and powerful warrior with a large machete. In addition to his role as a warrior, Ogun. The origins of the Black African race are a topic of great interest and debate among anthropologists, geneticists, and historians. While the origins of humans as a species can be traced back to Africa, the history of the Black African race specifically is more complex and difficult to trace. In this article, we will explore the various theories about the origins of the Black African race, as well as the historical and cultural factors that have contributed to the formation and evolution of this complex and diverse group of people. Origins of the Black African race. The origins of the Black African race are rooted in prehistory, before the rise of civilization and the development of written records. The earliest human fossils have been found in Africa, suggesting that the first humans evolved on the continent over 2 million years ago. The first humans were likely a diverse group of people, with a range of physical characteristics and genetic differences. Over time, these early humans began to develop distinct physical features that would eventually differentiate them into different racial groups. The Black African race is characterized by dark skin, curly hair, and certain facial features, such as a broad nose and full lips. These physical traits are the result of adaptations to the environment in which early Black Africans lived, such as intense sunlight and a diet rich in plant-based foods. One theory about the origins of the Black African race is that it evolved from an ancestral population of humans that migrated from the Middle East to Africa around 70,000 years ago. This theory is based on genetic evidence that suggests that the Black African race shares a common ancestor with populations from the Middle East, but diverged from them over time. Another theory is that the Black African race evolved from an ancestral population of humans that remained in Africa and adapted to the diverse environmental conditions on the continent. This theory is supported by evidence that suggests that the Black African race is the most genetically diverse group of people on the planet, with a wide range of genetic variations that reflect the diverse environments in which they have lived. Historical factors contributing to the formation of the Black African race. The formation of the Black African race was not just the result of genetic and environmental factors, but was also influenced by historical and cultural factors. Over time, the Black African race has been shaped by a variety of historical events and cultural practices, which have contributed to its diversity and complexity. One of the most significant historical factors contributing to the formation of the Black African race was the transatlantic slave trade. From the 16th to the 19th centuries, millions of Black Africans were forcibly taken from their homes and transported to the Americas to work as slaves on plantations. The transatlantic slave trade had a profound impact on the Black African race, both in terms of its demographic makeup and its cultural identity. Many Black Africans were separated from their families and communities, and forced to adapt to a new environment and culture. This led to the development of a distinct African American culture, which blended elements of African and European culture. Another significant historical factor contributing to the formation of the Black African race was colonialism. From the 19th to the mid-20th century, much of Africa was colonized by European powers, who imposed their own cultural and political systems on the continent. Colonialism had a profound impact on the Black African race, both in terms of its political and economic development, and its cultural identity. Many African countries today are still grappling with the legacy of colonialism, and are working to reclaim their cultural and political identity. Cultural factors contributing to the diversity of the Black African race. In addition to historical factors, the diversity of the Black African race is also shaped by a variety of cultural factors. Black African culture is rich and diverse, with a wide range of languages, religions, and traditions that reflect the